Coming up on this week's edition of AU Hoop Talk, we'll look back to the game against Navy, ahead to the contest against Army. We'll also sit down with former Eagle Pee Wee Gardner and discuss the impact he's making off the hardwood, and we'll get Coach Brennan's take on the Super Bowl. AU Hoop Talk with Coach Mike Brennan starts right now. And welcome into AU Hoop Talk with Coach Brennan. And Coach, as we jump in, tough game the other night against the Navy midshipmen. You guys got off to a great start, a quick start, leading 13-0. Just take us through that part of the game and the fact you guys were able to jump out on the mids.
Yeah, I thought offensively and defensively we came out strong. A lot of energy, sort of doing a lot of things that we've been emphasizing in practice. So I was, happy that we were able to score, get to the rim, move the ball, make shots, and defend them very well for those first few minutes.
What were some of the things that you say you were happy because they were able to implement some of the things you've been working on in practice? What are some of those things that you really are trying to do?
Just sharing the ball, being aggressive, having everybody involved, having sort of everybody know where they're supposed to be, and sort of feeling comfortable out there. So. It was against the man-to-man, so obviously everyone feels a little more comfortable versus man. But just with the way our offense, it looked like for not the first time, but we looked like everyone was real comfortable. Mm-hmm. We looked like we had practiced for a long time and knew what we were doing.
Now that's good. Then as the game progressed, Navy made some adjustments, and in the second half, really it was a tale of halves, able to battle back.
Yeah, we just struggled scoring against the zone. I think the things that we were emphasizing were open. I think it's just sort of each guy on our team had the opportunity to throw a pass, and they didn't. Each guy on our team had the opportunity to sort of, make a play in the zone, and they just didn't make the play. So it was sort of one thing that kind of, sort of crippled us, to be honest, offensively. But it's, to be honest, it's going forward. It's just one thing that we have to correct, and if we can just simply correct that with each guy on our team, we can easily handle. We handled it up at BU, the 2-3. So we just got to be more consistent. So we're checking things off the box, checking things off as to what we need to continue to improve upon, so at least we're still moving forward and making progress.
What makes that Navy zone so tough?
Well, one, they're good at it. They practice it. I remember talking to Coach Thompson about Coach Cheney's zone, and he was asking him questions. How do you get good? He's just like, you just practice it every day. Just getting your guys to sort of read and see what's going on, to work together, to react. So I think their energy level in the zone was high, and they're just good. They know their bumps. They know how to make things look crowded. So they did a really nice job.
Now, Sam Iorio got into foul trouble early, a couple quick whistles against him. How do you think that changed the complexion of the game? Or we know it did. So how much did it?
Yeah. Well, Sam's one of the guys that sort of gets other people's shots. Helps other people sort of contribute. Mm-hmm. Like a guy like CB needs Sam out there to help him be good. And again, I go back to the sort of BU game was like the 2-3 zone was like the thing that they do. And Sam, we made shots. That's the other thing. We made shots against them, mm-hmm. But Sam threw a bunch of passes in that game. So not having him out there for a long stretch of the time sort of takes away from us sort of getting a lot of good looks at the basket, and having a guy out there that can actually make the shots as well.
Now, as we move forward, next up for you, the road game at Army West Point, and that's another tough one. And you look at Army, that's a team that can spread the ball around. In the overtime loss on Wednesday to Bucknell, they had 5 guys in double-figure scoring. Jordan Fox, Matt Wilson, Alex King, just a couple of the guys that really come through for them on a nightly basis.
Yeah, no, they're a good offensive team. And them and Navy, when you're sort of doing the scout on the board, seems like you never have enough room for all the guys that they have and all the guys that they play.
And setting up your boards, like for the broadcasters too. Same
right,
thing.
I can imagine. Right. But yeah, they come at you in waves and numbers. So it's a similar game in sort of the type of team and the type of kids that they have that are just tough competitors, relentless. They keep coming. They play a lot of guys. It's different though. I mean, they pick you up full court man to man. They play primarily man to man. So it'll be a different challenge. But we were right there the first game. So hopefully we can sort of repeat that performance and finish it out.
Yeah, 4-point loss here at home, first time around. Now, last week we talked about the freshman impact in this conference, and it seems to me that with Army and Navy, and I guess it's just because of the byproduct of what they are and the setup of their schools, but that every time I'm going over and putting together my roster, that the guys are older. And I guess that's just a byproduct of the fact there's not a lot of movement, right? I mean, and they're able to play together a lot more and a lot longer too.
Yeah. I mean, they have that extra year for a lot of them, but they just have more bodies, and for the scholarship schools, you're able to compete and sort of maybe get the outlier here and there. But for the most part, a lot of the guys are sort of similar ability, so they just have more of them to sort of compete for those spots and those minutes. So our advantage is having scholarships. Their advantage is having numbers, and just by the nature of the academies, it's just they're, like you said, they're there for a longer time. They're, you sort of build your culture. I don't want to say more easily, but it sort of lends itself to that.
Yeah. Well, we'll hope that the Eagles have the advantage as they take flight up to Army West Point. Time for a timeout here on AU Hoop Talk. When we continue, a guy that made an impact on the floor as an Eagle, Pee Wee Gardner, now making an impact off the floor. We'll talk to him next.
In the Patriot League, our playbooks look a little different. Here, we play to win on the field, in the classroom, and in the community. A competitive athletic experience with high academic standards. Today's scholar athlete, tomorrow's leaders. That's the Patriot League.
Welcome to our sleepy little college town. You may have heard of us. Here we stand up for causes as naturally as we sit down for classes. We believe that knowledge, understanding, and discovery will make the world a better place, and that our contributions are only limited by our imaginations. Words, medals, and degrees don't make us who we are. Meaningful change does.
We are American.
And there's nothing we would rather be.
Welcome back to AU Hoop Talk. We're now talking with one of the greats in AU history, and that's Pee Wee Gardner. And Pee Wee, do people still call you Pee Wee, by the way?
Not in the workforce. Unfortunately, my president of the foundation made sure everyone not to call me Pee Wee. But here around, the AU community, they definitely see me as Pee Wee still. So it's a joy to have both names kind of get out there a little bit more.
So where did the nickname Pee Wee come from?
It originally came from just being the smallest player on one of my basketball teams when I was younger. And it came about a guy named Justin. He was just like, hey, man, we're going to call you Pee Wee. And ever since then, it just stuck. It became a household name when I was in Houston. And then as I traveled on, it just came bigger and bigger. So, it's one of my names I wish I can just change it to Pee Wee instead of Darius. But, hey, I'll take Darius any day.
And again, now they are calling you Darius, and of course your career here at AU, definitely nothing small about that. Let's talk about what you're doing off the floor, and now some really interesting and meaningful work that you're doing. Take us through what you're up to now.
So right now, I've been working going on 3 years now with the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation. We're located in Baltimore, Maryland. And, it started maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember. They came to a basketball game one time and by Athena. She kind of introduced me to Steve Salem, who's our president of the foundation. He just asked me, hey, would I be interested in talking to kids after the game? And, luckily, I was like, yeah, why not? When I was a kid, I needed someone to talk to me sometime too, and that was a huge factor in my life. So, I've been with the foundation for, again, 3 years now, and just up and up.
And now it's not really, of course, anybody that thinks Ripken, they immediately think baseball.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot more to the Ripken Foundation than just baseball, right?
Yes, I mean, it's a lot more. You see, one of the biggest things, when you see the Ripken name, you think of Cal, his brother Billy.
Yep.
But the foundation was actually started after their father. He wanted to instill life lessons to underprivileged youth around the country, and they didn't have, the coaches or the clinic or the skill set to do it. And he wanted to give back in the Baltimore area and Aberdeen area, actually. And once that came about, that's when they started the program, and it started in 2001, and now we're up in 2018, 17 years. So, we've just been trying to do more and more. Right now we have about 75 development youth parks around the country, and we're still growing. We might hopefully and pray that we have in 2020, we have about 100.
Lots of good and positive work that you're doing there. And now there's a really interesting thing that you're getting ready to go on a trip, actually, to Kenya, getting ready to go on a trip to Africa. Tell us how that came about.
It actually came by one of the coworkers I work with, Mr. Randy. And, from my basketball background, he asked me just, hey, would you be interested in going to Kenya, to do a basketball clinic? And my immediate answer was like, why not? That's once in a lifetime opportunity. And, I at first I was pretty nervous, to be honest with you. I didn't think I was qualified, if that makes sense. And, he just told me don't have fear. I have the faith in it, and I do. And I, for myself, growing up in the inner city of Houston, I wanted to see something different. And when I was growing up, I never thought I would get to Kenya. So I'm just blessed and honored and thankful.
Now, I'm sure it's going to be a really fascinating trip. Do you know how big basketball is in Kenya? Is it something where when you go over there and you're going to hold these clinics, is it something where the kids have already been, exposed to basketball, or is this something where you're pretty much going to have to start from scratch and explain to them what the ball is, how the game's played, and go from there?
Well, I think basketball in general is, a global sport, so I'm pretty sure they know a little bit about it. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be teaching them, but I know from my experience, I know when you get a basketball, you get any sport, you fall in love with it. You just want to do it the best you can, and I just wanted to go over there and give the little bit of knowledge that I've covered in my 26 years. Just try to impact someone. That's our biggest thing. Someone impacted me. Why can't I?
And so you're going to be over there for what, a couple of weeks?
10 days.
And do you know kind of how many clinics, kind of how it's going to work, and what all you're going to be doing? So you're going to be going and holding a clinic, explaining what basketball is, and kind of going from there. What else are you going to be doing?
Hopefully just sightseeing and just meeting as many people as I can, get to know that culture a little bit more. Basketball is one thing you can do, but also learning about the culture is another thing. And, for myself, I just wanted to, get to know someone. Hopefully we can have a lifetime relationship for the rest of my life. And once I'm over there, hopefully we get to, go see some animals out there and get in, the truck and everything. But pretty nervous about that. But, hopefully we can just go out there and sightsee and see what's different.
Any particular animal that you want to see out in its natural habitat? Maybe are you an elephant guy, a rhino guy, a giraffe? Anything in particular that you're really looking forward to seeing in its natural habitat and outside of a zoo?
Honestly, I don't want to see anything I see on Jurassic Park. Those things are scary. A lion for sure. I always looked at myself. I'm a LeBron fan, so we kind of look at ourselves as lions. So that's one thing I definitely want to see. And elephants. Any animal that I don't see often is good for me.
Yeah, it's a fascinating place to be. I was over there about 20 some odd years ago or so. Now, if people want to get involved with this trip and help you out, how can they go about that?
They can go on the website, and I'll share that website with everyone. I shared it online. I think it's Mountain CC. Once you put it in, you'll go into Kenya trip, and you just put in my name. And $1 help. Honestly, it's not going to me at all. It's just going to everyone that we can try to impact. Hopefully we can get it as much as we can, but if I have to put out my money, and I would, but unfortunately I can't. So I'm just looking for a little help as much.
Well, it's always fantastic catching up with you and to find out what good work that you're doing, not just here in the United States, but also now internationally. Thanks for taking some time.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Huey Gardner right there, back with more AU Hoop Talk right after this.
In the Patriot League, our playbooks look a little different. Here, we play to win in the field. in the classroom, and in the community. A competitive athletic experience with high academic standards. Today's scholar athlete, tomorrow's leaders. That's the Patriot League.
Welcome to our sleepy little college town. You may have heard of us. Here we stand up for causes as naturally as we sit down for classes. We believe that knowledge, understanding, and discovery will make the world a better place, and that our contributions are only limited by our imaginations. Words, medals, and degrees don't make us who we are. Meaningful change does.
We are American.
And there's nothing we would rather be.
And welcome back to AU Hoop Talk. And Coach, we just had a chance to talk with Pee Wee Gardner, and it's pretty neat to see that he's able to make an impact off the floor, and what he's been able to do working with the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation and now going on a mission trip over to Africa, and the fact that he's working so hard and passing basketball on to so many people.
He did the internship with the Cal Ripken Foundation when he was going to school here during the summer. He was able to get a job with them, and what a great opportunity for him, like you said, to do all the traveling that he's doing, and what a great representative for the foundation that they have in Pee Wee. He's just such a good kid, and has such a great story to tell, and I couldn't think of anybody better to be representing an organization than Pee Wee.
So let's tell your story a little bit. Let's go back and think back and take us through Mike Brennan and basketball. So the first time that you can remember playing basketball, holding a basketball, how far back are we going?
My dad played. My dad played in college, there's always a ball laying around. So as long as I can remember, I liked the sport. I always had a ball in my hand, so I started playing pretty early on.
How much of an impact was he on getting you to play and teaching you the game?
He didn't force it on me, but I was just around it. I played for a really Hall of Fame coach at Princeton. I played for a terrific high school coach, one of the best high school coaches in New Jersey, Ben Candolino. So I was prepared sort of for those guys because my dad sort of knew the game.
Mm-hmm.
He coached me in elementary school, so I learned the basics, all the fundamentals from him, who I was lucky because he knows what he's doing, knows what he's talking about. He still gives me a lot of advice. He's still coaching.
Is that good to have your father as your coach? Like, did you like that, the fact that he was your coach and then he also was your father?
I had no choice. I had no choice. A lot of my teammates couldn't imagine how I was able to go home with them, after some of the games. But again, he sort of, knew what he was talking about,
Sure.
And was a great coach and forceful, and made sure that you're doing things properly, holding you accountable, all the stuff that every coach talks about. So I was lucky that he was such a big part of it.
Did you ever think about another sport? Did you ever play another sport?
Did Little League and all that stuff like everybody else. But to be honest, I was always peeking over at the the people we used to play out in the outdoor courts.
Yeah.
I don't think people do that anymore with strangers. But it was always crowded, over there, and I just always wanted to be dribbling with basketball.
Now, as you go into high school, you said you played for one of the best high school coaches in New Jersey. What was that like, and preparing you to go to Princeton and play for Pete Carrill?
Yeah, well, Ben Candolino, I'd won, multiple state championships at Elizabeth High School. He was a great coach at St. Mary's before that, but now, we were always ranked in the top in the state and, ranked in the country, and it was a great sports school. It was a big public school.
Mm-hmm.
Public schools were really good in sports back then, before all these, sort of the recruiting and the prep school sort of scene came on. But he was a teacher by trade. He was a high school teacher. That's the most important part of being a coach is the teaching. Great mind for the game. And I remember Coach Carrill sort of, coming to our practices to recruit me. And he looked for guys that were coached by guys like Coach Candelino. He said high school coaches are the salt of the earth. He meant it, and sort of those are the type of players he went after and programs he recruited from.
And that had to have meant a lot when you see a guy that's as well known, as famed as Pete Carrill coming in, watching you, wanting you to play for him.
Well, again, Coach was similar. I think he saw a lot of similarities between him and Coach Candelino. Coach Carrill was a high school teacher for a long time, for about 10 years, and coached in high school for 10 years. So he sort of lived that and experienced it, and he knew, the importance of that. He had, obviously a ton of players of his went on to play in college before he started coaching in college. But I just remember feeling prepared, just my freshman year at Princeton, just because of my background, and I knew that there was a big difference between me and a lot of the other guys on the team, just because of that experience.
What was the biggest thing that you were able to take away from playing in college for Pete Carrill?
I'm
sure there's a lot.
His knowledge of the game. Practice was demanding. You knew you were gonna, he was gonna get the best out of you. You knew you were gonna compete at a high level, and you played a lot. We'd warm up a little bit, but it wasn't a ton of sort of mindless drills. Mm-hmm. It was all about the game and the decision making and the teamwork and passing and sharing the ball. So you were just playing 5-on-5, full court, half court, hours on hours on end. So it was as demanding as it was, and as demanding as a coach as he was. It was always fun to go to practice because you knew you were just going to play for several hours.
Now, off the floor, who was your favorite team that you followed, or favorite player? Did you have one that really stood out that you really enjoyed watching?
Wow. Well, like most other people, I like watching the Warriors, these days. I like watching Steph Curry. As prolific of a shooter as he is, it's the passing and his ability to share the ball, even though he's scoring 30 a game, he's still, guys are open, they're getting the ball, and I think, watching the San Antonio Spurs, mm-hmm. I think people notice that those two teams are different than everybody else in the league because of how they play and how seamless, they seem to play with each other. So it's fun to watch those two teams.
Now, before I let you go, of course, with this being Super Bowl week, got to get your take on who you think is going to win. We won't go points or any of that stuff, but do you think the New England Patriots or Philadelphia Eagles? Who do you have?
Is that who's playing?
That is who's playing. I'm gonna be, shockingly, the Patriots are in it again.
I'll be in a gym in Rhode Island recruiting, but no, watching Tom Brady, just go about his business, watching him, be as good as he is, and sort of just continue to be the type of guy that he is. How he conducts himself with all the attention and everything, just their team, their organization. It's hard not to root for a guy like that.
So you're going to go with the Patriots. Okay. We're in D.C. That's a political answer.
All my buddies in Philly will be mad at me. But.
All right, well, that'll do it for this edition of AU Hoop Talk. Be sure and keep up with the Eagles on social media and, of course, on AUEagles.com. For Coach, I'm Dan. Have a great day, everybody.